Well, welcome everybody to Mary Giuliani Live. We're thrilled you're here. I am so excited to have you on the show tonight. I'm having a little bit of a, oh, I see what it is. Hold on just a second. I'm having a little bit of a technical thing here. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Okay, I'm starting over. Hold on just a second. Okay. I think I know what it is. Okay. Just bear with me. This is part of live streaming. Let's see. Okay. Ah, I see it. I found it. So what happens for you guys out in live stream land is, and this is like a really weird thing, but I have a bunch of monitors here in my studio. And I've got the YouTube monitor showing what's live on YouTube. I've got a monitor that's what's showing live on my website. And sometimes they're muted and sometimes they're not. And so when they're not muted, I get like a second voice in my ear that so it's like I'm hearing myself talk and then it like repeats it, and so it totally throws off your brain. So anyway, that's what happened. Okay, so welcome everybody to Mary Giuliani Live. I am really thrilled you're here, and we're going to have a great show tonight. We've got Sherry Gaba, who is a wonderful therapist, and she's written a book called The Law of Sobriety and is going to be talking all about combining the law of attraction and sobriety and the 12 steps. And so it's great because I have so much experience with all of these things, and it's always fun to talk about recovery and law of attraction and all kinds of things related to that topic. But before we bring on Sherry, I wanted to just mention that for the people that are watching us live on Facebook, if you would like to ask Sherry questions, you can just come over to marygiuliani.net and then watch live, because there's a chat box right below the live stream where you can actually type in your questions for Sherry, because that's where I manage all of my questions for my guests. But if you're not going to be answering questions, just hang out on Facebook Live. And if you would be so kind, it really would help if you would share this live stream right now as it's live to your people, because that way they'll get a great message about recovery. I mean, you know, everybody's been touched by addiction on some level, whether it's a process or a substance abuse or whatever. And so this is going to be a great interview, learning about all the different aspects of addiction and recovery and what kind of resources are available for you. You really can recover. I'm a testament from this, believe me. Anyway, also if you're on my website, make sure that you sign up for my newsletter so that you can get updates on the guests that are coming up each week. You get just one email a week. Also, if you're an iTunes person, you can subscribe to my iTunes channel at marygiuliani.net, or excuse me, watch live, and you can get automatic recordings every week in your iTunes channel. What else? Anything else I have going on? If you have any ideas for guests, or if you would like to suggest a topic, please email me at mary@marygiuliani.net. And I think that's about it as far as announcements go. Let's see. Sherry Gaba has been in the recovery world for over 20 years now, I believe. She'll clarify that. And she's actually was on the Celebrity Rehab series and some other TV shows with Dr. Drew Pinsky, and also is the editor of the Recovery Today magazine. So she's very involved in recovery, and so without further ado, let's bring her on. Hi, Sherry. How are you?
Hi, Mary. I'm just impressed that you've got this whole techno thing going on. I'm just impressed incredible. I'm so impressed. And I think this is probably my first live stream with
Oh,
someone.
okay.
I mean, yeah, I've done a couple of Facebook lives, but I don't think I've ever done an interview live like this. Usually they're pre-recorded. So
Yes. Yes.
this is exciting.
I know, isn't it? I mean, this is a
Very-
public live stream, so anybody in the entire planet can be watching you live right now anywhere in the world for free.
That's
So,
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
yeah,
And it just goes with my nature of serving, the fact that it is
yeah.
free and that we're, giving information out like it's so helpful and positive. I just love it.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad that you can appreciate it. So, I came across you through the Recovery Today magazine since I've been in, I found recovery in 1987, and so I've always been, kind of up on what's going on in the different worlds, and I love what you're doing with Recovery Today. And then come to find out that you're also involved with all kinds of you're also a therapist and have been on different TV programs. Do you mind sharing with the audience a little bit about your background?
Sure. I was the licensed psychotherapist and certified recovery coach on Celebrity Rehab on VH1 for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then their
Mm-hmm.
subsequent Sober House and Sex Addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It was an amazing experience working with the famed Dr. Drew Pinsky.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I publish a magazine, Recovery Today magazine, and I have a private practice. And what else do I do? I host a summit called the Recovery Today Series. And,
Uh-huh.
maybe when we get towards the end of the interview, we can give out a couple of links that people might
Sure.
find useful. Because I'm all about giving out free information. There's so many people out there that need support, and it's just all about giving and giving and giving. So yeah, that's my
Awesome.
background. I am a member of a 12-step program called Al-Anon. I know that we are generally anonymous with these programs, but when I say it, I'm okay using the word Al-Anon because I'm
Okay.
breaking my anonymity, not the program itself. And am a codependent, definitely. Love
Mm-hmm.
addict, but my main program is Al-Anon. But I,
Mm-hmm.
understand all of the programs and work with all I work with individuals in those areas as well. That's what's so great
Mm-hmm.
when you have a personal relationship with these issues. You can be
Yes.
so much more helpful. I was married to an
Absolutely.
alcoholic, and
Okay.
so I just got into this recovery thing also because I worked at Promises, which was
Mm-hmm.
one of the first famous Malibu residential treatment centers that was a home where people stayed
Mm-hmm.
in, and it was a new modality for recovery. So yeah, I've just been around recovery a long time, and it's my passion. And helping people find purpose is my passion, and working with the underlying issues of trauma is what I do.
Oh, cool. So, as far as like how you would identify, like just as far as addiction goes, I mean, most people I know for me in the past would think when I first would hear the word addiction, it would be alcohol or drugs, but there's many types of addictions. So, would you mind sharing just what the most common process
Sure.
and what they are, and as well as substance?
You're right. I mean, when I wrote my book, The Law of Sobriety, I had drugs and alcohol in mind. But
Mm-hmm.
really, what you're talking about are process addictions. They can also be called lifestyle addictions. They're also known as
Mm-hmm.
softer addictions. And so people, I think a lot of people struggle with things that are not drugs or alcohol. It could be love,
Mm-hmm.
it could be
Mm-hmm.
codependency, it could be sex, it could be food, it could be, like binge eating, it could be the internet, it could be gambling, it could be TV, it could even be gossiping. It could be judging others. It could be addiction to drama. It's anything that keeps you from being present, anything that you use to self-medicate and to numb out your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in your life is looking at you and saying you're unavailable, you're not present. And so the law of sobriety was sort of a labor of love, just combining. And I know we're going to get into this, but waking up to who you are, and that
Mm-hmm.
is usually, you're usually asleep when we're in our addiction. So the
Mm-hmm.
law of attraction is really how I was able to wake up.
Okay, cool. Um, and so, what like I guess when it comes to addiction and recovery, it's like when do you know that, I mean, it's pretty obvious, like for me, my biggest issue was alcohol, and it was pretty obvious that I needed to stop completely, and there, it was just one of those really obvious things. There was no like, I wonder if I have a problem kind of thing. But like, what about people that are just, maybe eating a little bit too much, or noticing that they're numbing out with Facebook, or they're sort of obsessing about being in a relationship. I mean, how do you differentiate between who needs to get like help versus who can do something on their own?
Well, simply your life is, spinning out of control and is becoming unmanageable. And other people are
Okay.
noticing that you're just not there. You're in chaos. When it comes to drugs and alcohol, you could be losing children. If it's the internet,
Right.
you're not giving your spouse or family members any attention.
Mhm.
I mean, I have
Mhm.
a client recently that got sober and now he's into gaming. And so, when I asked him what is he doing for joy in his recovery, it's like, oh, my game. And he basically is just going home and doing gaming. He's doing gaming at night, weekends,
Are you
and if
talking
he's in
about gambling, or is this
you
like
know what? I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it fills up his whole. You're right. It could be gambling. It could also be video games.
oh, oh, I
I'm not
see. I
even.
see. Just yeah. Yeah, I
It's
got
just
it. Okay.
he's not present. Like he'd like to
Right.
maybe meet somebody, and I'm like, well, how's that going to work out for you when you're constantly like you're not even willing to go to meetings because you have to run home and get on the internet to be on this game. So,
Right.
this is a problem. Food, it could be, you're not going outside anymore. Your clothes don't fit, you feel uncomfortable, so you're not willing to go out in the world because you don't like how you look.
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
could go through each one, but it's how is it, how are you isolating from this? If it's
Yes.
drugs, alcohol, are you having withdrawal systems? Then we're talking about dependency.
Right.
I talked a little bit about my own story. I was a codependent love addict and then at times abused alcohol. I never became a full blown alcoholic. And
Right.
people get a little weirded out when you say that, but what that really means is there was a period of time that I was drinking in a way that was self medicating, and it was
Right.
not it was not okay. It was not okay. And
Right.
then once I got out of the situation that I was in, out of that relationship and so forth, I realized I didn't have an alcohol problem, but it was an issue. So it doesn't even really matter if it's addiction or abuse. Is it working for you? And if it's not working for you, you
Right.
need to change your habits and your behaviors.
Well, and that's so interesting, just the whole word of addiction. And one of the things, being that I got into recovery so many years ago, and realizing there's so much stigma around the word addiction, um, that, I mean, from what I can see, I did a little bit of research on this, not for this particular interview, but just because of my own interest. Like 9 out of 10 people don't get treatment, and a big part of that is because of the stigma around. And then once you admit you're an alcoholic or an addict, then you need to go to rehab, or you need to label yourself and have to go to meetings. And
I get a
so,
lot of
what would you?
people that won't go to meetings, that just refuse to go to
Yeah.
meetings. And my opinion is the meetings are the foundation. I think it's a great place to
Mhm.
start. Is it the only
Mhm.
way? I think there's other paths, but I believe that
Mhm.
the success rate that we know for a fact is in meetings. And so I'm a big
Mhm.
proponent of meetings, but I do think that
Mhm.
we have to, when I work with clients, I start, social work 101. You start where your client is. And so if a client
Right.
isn't open, I'm going to start with where they're at. And then maybe meetings will be a possibility, maybe not. Um, there's a lot of options out there, but I think the biggest
Mhm.
component of staying sober is to have a community, and it
Mhm.
doesn't matter, well, does it matter? I think 12 steps are awesome, but there are other communities, spiritual communities. Um, you need other people to relate to. I related to when I became a single mother very early on in
Mhm.
my life in my 20s. I joined a single parent group, and it was just so
Mhm.
powerful to have other
Mhm.
people that really understood my journey. So that's part of the
Right.
healing process, not feeling alone and
Absolutely.
having.
And it's so interesting too. Just recently, I found out about some other recovery-based groups for people that are into like more Eastern, like Buddhism. There's the Refuge Recovery.
Yes, awesome.
Um, I mean, so it doesn't have the kind of energy, because a lot of people have issues with the whole 12 step sort of doctrine, And yeah, so there's refuge recovery, there's smart recovery, there's therapy, there's all kinds of things you can do. But
Yeah,
yes,
a lot of young people I found, because I have worked as a life coach and psychotherapist at many rehabs, and the issue was always sometimes the word God. They just could not take in the word
yeah,
God, even though the founders
hmm
of the Big Book talked about a higher power of your understanding. God is
hmm
mentioned quite often. So what I talk about a lot, and that's where the law of attraction comes in, is the universe. Infinite intelligence,
yes,
infinite. There's something out there that's much bigger than us, but it could be the
yes,
universe. It could
absolutely,
be pure potentiality is where that all exists.
yes,
Conscious. I mean,
absolutely.
call it whatever you want. Whatever works for you. I'm all about whatever works for you. Whatever is going to keep you on this journey of authenticity.
Well, I totally agree. One of that I had an issue with being raised Catholic and all the weird stuff that was laid on me as, Catholic schoolgirl and everything. I had an issue with the word God in AA too, and what really helped me is I just made AA my higher power at the time because on my own I couldn't get sober, but with AA I could. So obviously it was a power greater than me.
Exactly. AA worked. And honestly, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest, when you go to an AA meeting or 12-step meeting, you are in the law of attraction. We're all
Yes.
there talking about experience, strength, and hope, and
Yes.
positivity. And by doing that, you're putting out to the universe positive energy. You're vibrating at a really high level because you're with many
Mhm.
people, and so
Mhm.
you're going to attract back probably sobriety if you do the program correctly. Or I don't want to say
Absolutely.
correctly, that's kind of judgmental, but if you do the program, we attract like attracts like. So if you're at a meeting,
Right.
most likely most people when they leave the meeting have a reprieve. They feel, oh my God, I feel so much better. Well, that's because
Right.
they've just been with many other people vibrating at a really high level, high frequency of positivity. How can you
Absolutely.
beat that?
Well, and for me, it was just about learning that I could have fun. I mean, my biggest thing about giving up alcohol and drugs was how am I going to have any fun? Because that was the only reference I had to fun. And
Yeah.
it really helped me realize that I could actually have fun and hang out with other people that were just like me, and I didn't have to feel like a really bad person trying to get good, but just a sick person trying to get well. And so even though
Well, there's
I'm
no
not into
question.
12-step any, yeah, I mean, I'm not into the 12-step thing anymore, but it played a very pivotal role in my recovery, and so yeah. So let's talk about the law of attraction and recovery. So how do you have it connected as far as what does it have to do with addiction recovery?
Well, to understand the union, we must first, address the word addiction, the component of
Hmm.
addiction as it relates to psychology and the metaphysical world. Addiction
Hmm.
is locked into our thinking, our thoughts, which is intrinsically tied into one's feelings and emotions. And this is why the psychological therapeutic process is so important to the recovery process. The metaphysical aspect relates to the
Hmm.
world around us, the energy that we put out into the world, and the energy we receive. I've had amazing success by blending the unique attributes of the psychological approaches and metaphysics. So much so that I decided to fuse them together in a really clinically sound and successful modality, which I call the law of sobriety. It's a modality and a treatment, and it's proven to have the potential to greatly increase the rate of positive treatment outcomes for anyone working with people struggling with addiction. And that's really how the book was formulated. One of the
Awesome.
fundamental principles is we're surrounded by infinite intelligence, like I mentioned earlier. Because we're spiritual beings, we sense the presence of an intelligence, which is beyond what we see. One of the
Hmm.
things I talk a lot about is that we are so much more than the circumstances that we're in. Often we think, oh my God, I've lost my kids to this addiction, or I don't have a job, or I have a felony. And it's all about there is an invisible line, and something beyond that line exists that is on its way, even though you don't see it here in the present form. But unfortunately,
Hmm.
we live in a world that everything is about the present form, the logic, our body. And our body's important, and we need to keep it healthy because we are living in a physical realm. But if you believe in eternity or if you believe in infinity, this is just a stopping ground. So
Right.
how wonderful to know that this is just, let's do what we can while we're here, because this is our physical reality, until we either come back to the physical reality, or whatever your belief systems are, you go to heaven or whatever.
Mhm.
Let's be the most powerful people we can be while we're here in this physical body. So the way we access universal energy is through expanding our awareness, our consciousness, which is done in my book, or the way my philosophy is through mindfulness and meditation,
Mhm.
affirmations, journaling. I mean, it goes back to awareness. Everything.
Mhm.
The point of power is in the present. Think of
Mhm.
books like The Power of Now. I mean, everything occurs in the present moment. And so our,
Absolutely.
infinite the infinite intelligence responds to us when we're true to our own nature, when we're in love, inspiration, when we're in joy, when we're being true to ourselves. Our thoughts are the engine, and our emotions are the fuel. So our thoughts create our reality. So you got to be careful of words you use, thoughts you have, and then thoughts create emotions, and that
Mhm.
creates our energy, and that is what is attracted back to us. So someone out there might be saying, well, if I'm really depressed, how am I supposed to have positive thoughts? Well, you have to do things that raise your vibration. So what would that be? That might be meditating. That might be journaling. That might be
Right.
creating a vision board. Doing things that will raise your vibration. Like right now, I'm a new grandma. I have a 1-year-old granddaughter, and when
Oh
I'm
wow.
not feeling,
Congratulations.
it's incredible. I'll show you her picture sometime, Mary. Anyway,
Okay.
I show everybody her picture and her videos. But honestly, she is my new law of attraction thing, because anytime I'm
Yes.
feeling like my vibration is low, I just look at her picture, I look at her
Yes.
video, and it completely raises my vibration. So the question
Oh.
you have to ask yourself out there, out there in live stream world, is what raises your vibration? And so that's why meetings can raise your vibration.
Right.
Reading a really great book on the law of attraction, or any book that is
Right.
spiritual and healing in nature, is going to raise your vibration.
Right.
You know,
Awesome.
what we are and become depends on what we're thinking. So the awareness inside us is really the basis of all reality. Um, I don't know if you want me to go on this subject, or if you
Well,
have
yeah.
other
I mean,
questions.
I'm interested in just sort of like just a little bit of a history of New Age thinking.
Okay, so think of prana. Prana is considered cosmic energy. It's the breath that transforms us.
Mhm.
You think of
Mhm.
getting acupuncture, and they're balancing your chi, which is going to give you better health. Karma
Mhm.
is action, so our words create our karma. That's a form of law
Mhm.
of attraction. Judaism and
Mhm.
Christianity, the power of faith brings about
Mhm.
positive change. Then there was something called the science of mind, New Thought movement. To
Yes.
live successfully, choose positive thoughts. Uh,
Mhm.
it integrates spiritual truth and science and physics. And then you have
Mhm.
Louise Hay. She's sort of the pioneer of bringing it into the mainstream way before The Secret. She wrote the book You Can Heal Your Life, which is positive thoughts are the gateway to healing your body. And then, of course, we all know Deepak Chopra. He talks about
Right.
the energetic force behind the law of attraction is the field of potentiality. This is where we reach our greatest selves, where our infinite wisdom lies, which is through consciousness. And this is why numbing our
Mhm.
feelings, whether alcohol or other process addictions, doesn't allow us to access the core aspect of ourselves. Because if we're numbing out or self-medicating, we can't access infinite intelligence, God, higher power, and so forth.
That's so key. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's where, to me, it really beautifully ties in why it's for our highest good to be drug or alcohol free, or like Wayne Dyer, for example, mentioned that the reason why he gave up drinking wasn't so much that, I don't think it was so much that it was ruining his life, but one of his teachers told him that he could never experience a level of awareness or consciousness if he continued to drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly that's exactly right.
yeah, and
He couldn't reach those other levels of the deeper dive, so to speak. Getting to the
exactly, and
the core of himself. And you know,
yeah.
um, that's why you see a lot of people. I know somebody that she does all this woo woo stuff, and she considers herself really spiritual, and she's out there, signing up for every single spiritual class, and yet she's
Mm-hmm.
probably the most negative person I've ever seen. So I'm not bringing it up to gossip. I'm only bringing it up to say that she's not congruent. What she's doing out there is not congruent to how
Right.
she truly feels, and that's why she
Right.
keeps stumbling and getting in her own way of receiving. You're not. You
Right.
have to believe it, you have to feel it, and then you will
Yes.
receive it. But if you're not really feeling it, I use the story of when my book, The Law of Sobriety, came out. I mean, imagine that my husband has relapsed. I'm in this complete chaos of the alcoholism nightmare of somebody you love. And I'm out there doing book signings and, writing about, I mean, not writing, talking and doing workshops about the law of sobriety. And honestly, I wasn't congruent because I really was somewhere else.
Right.
I was in that
Right.
drama. So,
Right.
it's, and I'm okay sharing that because it sort of was an incongruency, and it was just, imagine that you
Yeah.
write a book about the law of attraction, but your life is anything but that. But I
Yeah.
realized,
Yeah.
later on, what that meant. And so when I talk about it today, I'm so much
Yes.
more clear and fluid and
Uh-huh.
honest. We need to
Yeah.
be honest,
Good.
and I love talking about it because I'm in such a better place than when I did a lot of these interviews, 3-4 years ago, and now I'm kind of back doing the
Yeah.
interview circuit again because of my new book. And you contacted me, and I thought, sure, I'll talk about my book because it's been out a while, but it's
Yeah.
I can just feel in my body, which is vibrating at a higher level of consciousness and
Well, that's
authenticity.
that. Well, that's so interesting. It's almost like you grew into your book.
Oh, you
In
have
a
no
way.
idea. I mean, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Most people like do circuit speaking, then they write a book, or they
Yeah.
write a book and they speak. Mine was completely backwards. Oh, and then they do
Yeah.
TV. Mine was like do TV, then write a book, then speak. It was a
Yeah.
mishmash. It's just how the universe
Yeah.
showed up. But then it all sort of had to kind of regulate itself. And here I
Yeah.
am. And I'm in such a
Awesome.
great place. It's nice. Feels
You
good.
know, I want to mention to our viewers, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but, well, I did actually, but I want to mention it again for people that logged in a little bit later. If you have any questions for Sherry or for me, please just type them into the little chat box right beneath the live stream box, which is right above the URL above me at the top of the screen, maryjuliani.net watch live, is where the live chat box is. If you're on Facebook Live, you just need to come over to maryjuliani.net watch live, because that's where we're doing the Q&A stuff. Yeah, that's the whole, one of the things that I think I would have loved your book. I mean, I love your book now because I love the law of attraction. I've been a law of attraction coach and into it for like 25 years, and
Oh,
I was
wow.
using the law of attraction along with my sobriety from the actually one of the girlfriend that I had at the time, her her outpatient drug alcohol counselor recommended we go to the Church of Religious Science, which is where Louise Hay came from.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was like, so that's the law of attraction. That was, the science of mind, or I think they call it the Center for Spiritual Living now. Ernest Holmes.
Totally the law of attraction.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was the law of attraction before it became Abraham
Yeah.
or The Secret, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but anyway, so I've been combining it for a really long time, so it was so cool to see your book.
Thank you.
So yeah, so and one of the things I was going to say is that was one of the frustrations I had with just 12-step by itself was here I am, this 27-year-old young woman who's getting sober and has all this energy and dreams of what she wants to do with her life, but in 12-step, it wasn't like they had, go for your dreams and embrace the law of attraction going on. You know what I mean? They didn't have that there. So
Right.
it was great to find some other resources, and actually, that's actually what I want to talk about a little bit too. Is how do we
Well, I was just going to
shift
say,
from?
I was
Yeah,
just going to
go
say, I
ahead.
can't quote it from the big book. I don't know the big book backwards and forward, but there is a part in there that, I think Bill Wilson talks about going to therapy or, doing other
Right.
things,
Outside,
that are
getting outside help. Yeah.
outside help. So whatever, they understood that the 12
Yes.
steps were just the foundation, the beginning.
Right.
And maybe for some
Right.
it's everything. And power to those where it's everything. But then there are those seekers that maybe want to explore other things. So great, whatever works.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing is that, and one of the things that on the little chips that we get at meetings, it says, "To thy own self be true." And what I love about that, and that aligns with your book under authenticity, is that you do have to be true to yourself if you're going to stay sober, and you
Yeah.
have to put your needs first, or you'll relapse. And so,
Yeah.
how would you discuss how to, like, like if somebody's newly sober or whatever recovery they have, how much time should they focus on just their recovery versus getting into having a life that they really love, like their career or relationship and
Well,
that sort
if
of
it's
thing?
early sobriety, I think recovery has to be everything. I mean, you can't have a
Right,
life without recovery. But
right,
you've been a master life coach. You understand it's all about balance. So,
right,
do I believe you should not get into a relationship for a year? I don't know. Sometimes you fall in love early on, and that's just how it goes. I don't have any rules around that. I think it could be a slippery slope. So you want to be aware. I
right,
absolutely believe that you have to pay your bills, so you got to work.
right,
And then I think environment's really important. You got to have an environment that's really nurturing and healthy, and you know, I'm trying to think of that balance. Balance wheel of all the things. I mean, you want to have a
yes,
spiritual life, which it could be the 12 steps or law of attraction or whatever it is, Buddhism, church, whatever it is that floats your boat, or it
right,
could be just the meeting. If we
right,
go through that wheel of life, you want to have maybe some hobbies and exercise. You want to be moving. You want to get your chi
right,
moving, so you want some movement.
right,
So yeah, I think you need balance. I really do.
right,
But I do think that without recovery first, you will
right.
have
You don't
you will
have
have
anything.
yeah.
You don't have
My
a life
my
to do anything with.
my
um,
significant other just wrote me a little note. He's so cute. He wrote, there are those two who suffer from the big book. There are those two who suffer from grave and emotional mental disorder, but we do recover if we have the capacity to be honest. So he wanted to
yes,
share that with everybody.
yes,
He was
that's
trying to
true.
kind of catch on to what I was talking about.
So how does purpose? I love this part where you talk about, like combining, just really getting clear about what your purpose in life is and being authentic. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Well, if you're first getting sober, maybe that is your purpose, and that's perfectly fine. If your purpose
Mhm.
is just a recovery program, yay. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes you just have to show up and get
Mhm.
up in the morning and not drink or use. And if that's what it is,
Mhm.
that's what it is. It doesn't have to be this big thing. Now, as you start to work your recovery,
Mhm.
what is your purpose? What is it that gives you? What is
Mhm.
it that makes your heart sing? What is it that brings you
Mhm.
joy? I mean, what do you know to be true that what is that calling? Maybe it's
Mhm.
just maybe it's spending time with your grandchildren. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's something
Right.
bigger. Maybe it's going back to school. You're going after something that you're mustering up all this energy and you're putting into something that you love, a life that you will love. So that's what I say about purpose. I think you have to replace your addiction with meaning and fulfillment, and that's where purpose comes in.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have all these people that get sober, and it's like, well, now what? What do I do? They're kind of like when you're a caregiver. Let's say somebody's old and you've been taking
Right.
care of them, and then they pass away. It's like, okay, there's this empty void. I got to do something with that
Right.
empty void. Got to
Right.
find something that gives me meaning. But I just want people to just have compassion. It doesn't have to be so big. It can be just about
Right.
anything. It could be, taking a cooking class. I don't know. I think it's one of the
Right.
most important breakthroughs though that you can make in your recovery is finding your purpose because
Right.
it's deciding why are you here and what gives your life meaning. And I think it really keeps you on track by enabling you to choose where to put your energy. I think it can be. I mean, I love having purpose, and my purpose is to help others. And I have other purposes too, you know, to be a good
Right.
daughter, to be a good grandmother, to be a good partner, whatever. But I love helping others. That makes me, you know, that brings me a lot of joy. And I think we're in a consciousness of a lot of people out there that, you know, we have a lot of experts out there. We have a lot of people out there that want to help others.
Mhm.
And if that's what they want to do, great. If
Mhm.
it's being a sponsor at a meeting, great. If it's going back to school to be a therapist, great. A coach, great. Whatever, whatever. There's so many opportunities today. Look at us. We're talking to people all over the world. You know,
Right.
so if that's your
Exactly.
purpose, there's lots of people out there that need your help.
Well, yeah, and I know for me, what I got clear about was if I was going to stay as a sober person, it was like I had to follow my heart and be true to myself, or the pain would get so intense I'd relapse. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like it's almost like it's like a mandate. It feels like there's this mandate that we must find what makes our heart sing and pursue it, or we'll do self-destructive things. And so, to me, it's a good relapse prevention too, because you're so busy focused on what you really love that you're not depressed or feeling like bored or like that there's no purpose for you to be here. You know what I'm saying?
And it's not even just the purpose itself, it's the unfolding and the process of the purpose. Like,
Right.
okay, I'm sober and I'm going to find a purpose, okay, but I don't know what it is. So then it's the process, it's the journey, it's the steps, it's the path. You know,
Right.
don't like beat yourself up because you're not there. You
Right.
know, it's what is that saying? You know, it's a process, not a
It's a
destination. I
journey,
don't
not
know.
a destination. Yeah, it's like you
Yeah,
have to enjoy the journey. Um,
exactly, exactly. And we
so,
say it, but are people really taking that in? You know, we
mhm.
overuse these sayings, because we're just so used to it in our field. But really, look at those words. Like, what is this? What is this journey I'm on? I'm okay where I am on this journey right now.
Mhm.
That purpose is on its way, even if I don't even know what it is. Like, you could be sitting
Right.
there on this call going, "Oh my God, I don't even know what I want. I don't know what I want." Okay, that's where you're on. That's your journey right now. I don't know where I
To
am.
figure it out.
So be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, be
Yeah.
curious.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what are some of the authors or people that have influenced you in your professional career?
I'm sorry for you.
Did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mary, I can't hear you.
I was just curious,
I,
what are, can,
I
can you
hear
hear me
you now.
now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of, what have been the main influences in your life as far as just people that you've uh, looked up to or that have influenced your professional development and career?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I didn't even have to think about that for a minute. I think the three people that endorsed my book, I hate to say it, I mean, Melody Beatty,
Oh my
she was,
God, yes.
amazing. Dr. Drew, I mean, he gave me
Yes.
my start. And
Yes.
Deepak Chopra, who wrote in my book. I mean, those two people would be at the top of my list. But I am so blessed because I do a summit twice a year, and I have met the most incredible people. I couldn't even begin to list the people that I have had the privilege of interviewing that I just
Wow.
love. Yeah,
Is this an
I
online summit or
Yeah,
in person?
people could go to recoverytodayseries.com. That was the last one that I did, that I've done
Uh-huh.
four, and they can check it out. I usually have celebrities, I have addiction experts, and then I usually have
Mhm.
transformational leaders. So a little bit of
Right.
everybody. And
Mhm.
so it's Recovery Today series. Or if people are wanting to subscribe to the magazine, recoverytodaymagazine.com,
Right.
recoverytodaymagazine.com. It's a
Okay.
magazine app, and that's another
Yes, I
option for
have it.
people.
It's
Thank
great.
you.
It's great. So
Well, what's
is
great is
Recovery Today?
it's an app, so
Yes.
there's a lot of multimedia stuff. There's a lot of video, audio,
Uh-huh.
not just reading articles. Yeah.
So did you start that magazine or how did that come about?
It's published by Greg Hanley. He is the CEO of Sober Recovery Center, and his intention was to put out pure content. I mean, right now at this point we have no advertisers. It's all
Mhm.
content driven. We just wanted to put out free information. I don't know if
Right.
that'll change. Eventually, we might begin to put advertisers in the magazine, but for the last 2 years, probably over 2 years,
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
information for families of addicts and for addicts and alcoholics, someone new in recovery,
Mhm.
someone that's been in recovery a while.
Mhm.
And then, of course,
Mhm.
we didn't talk much about the families, but that population is near and dear to my heart and to our magazine.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because a lot of people don't look at codependency as an addiction, but it is. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, oh yeah, oh
so,
yeah,
and a lot of people don't even know they're suffering with it.
oh
So,
yeah,
would you mind
yeah.
sharing some of the symptoms of whether, and you don't even have to be with somebody that's a practicing alcoholic or addict or anything. So, could you share just so people might know that they might be suffering with this and that there's help for them? What?
Yeah, I mean, it's things like people pleasing, needing approval. Um, gosh, if you're married to one, or I'm not married, or you're with somebody that's an addict alcoholic, you're obsessed with getting them sober. If you're, you can be codependent and love addicted, where you're obsessed with that person. You're obsessed. Everything about you is outside. I mean, really, in essence, everything's outside focused. Nothing is inside. It's sort of a false self of being. Usually it's people that grew up with neglect or trauma of
Mhm.
some sort, and so they were never safe inside, so they had to focus outside. So I was
Mhm.
definitely an outside oriented person. I was a top salesperson, went back to school in my 30s,
Mhm.
then married an alcoholic. He became my obsession, and then then he relapsed. And so for many, for a couple years, I was obsessed with getting him sober, even though I worked in the field. I was obsessed, obsessed, obsessed. It
Yes.
becomes your higher power. It's really, really codependency is trying to control people, places, and things in your life that
It's
you
like
really
that,
don't have.
the addiction to doing that, yeah, to where it makes you crazy. I know for me, when I was raised in an alcoholic home, and I remember just wanting to figure out how to help my mom get sober, and so it was like that focus because I mean that was it was really preservation in a way, and so I noticed as before I got into Coda and Al-Anon and stuff like that, I would I think one of the great ways to tell if you're codependent or not is if when you read books, you're reading it like, oh, so and so should be reading this.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
No,
I used to always read books like, oh my God, my girlfriend should be reading this. Oh my God, this person. I mean,
right,
so focused and passionate about changing them and helping them change,
right.
and it
Trying
was
to
like,
fix and change. And the bottom line is the truth is nobody
yeah,
needs fixing. They are just
right,
okay on their path and have their own higher
right,
power. You know,
right,
um, it's a huge lesson. I got shingles. I started to lose hair. I mean, I got really sick from trying
right.
to control the addict alcoholic in my life. And so, and then finally, eventually, I got so sick I had to do something. So that's when I
Yeah.
kind of, found I found other things too. I found a lot more balance in my life.
And that is that when you started going to Al-Anon or?
I started going to Al-Anon. I started taking up canoeing. I sort of widened my circle.
Mhm.
Um,
Good.
I was kind of in a very codependent relationship. Um,
Mhm.
we both had a lot of work to do, and he did get
Mhm.
sober. And
Mhm.
we are actually together today. We were apart for 4 years, and he did get
Mhm.
sober. And the truth is, we both had a disease that we had to take care of and work on in order to find each
Well,
other again.
and I think that's so important that because one of the things that kind of bugs me in a way or has bugged me in the past when you have people that are in recovery with alcohol or drugs or whatever, and then you've got codependent spouses or family members. Sometimes it felt like the alcoholics and the addicts were always the troublemakers, the bad boys and girls, and like it was like the poor codependent that is having to put up with all this stuff. But the reality is that we're both like with my mom and my dad. My mom was the alcoholic, but my dad was just as sick as my mom by enabling her. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. You have more fun at a AA meeting than you do at an Al-Anon. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
You can go to an Al-Anon meeting, and unless you're at a meeting that has a lot of solutions, there's a lot of whining that goes on. And so I don't go to
yeah,
those meetings. I go to the ones where there's,
yeah.
solutions. But yeah, yeah. Some people, it's sad. I mean, it takes a lot to wake up to yourself because you're so used to taking care of everybody else. You know,
Or
whether it's at
blaming
a
or
job.
blaming the alcoholic or the addict for your problems,
Yeah,
where
right.
you make a choice to stay in that relationship or not have boundaries or whatever it might be. Um,
Right.
you know,
You've got to
the
keep
other,
the focus is on yourself.
yes,
It all starts with you,
right,
and that's the issue.
right,
And I mean, I can't say that enough. And they say that at the meetings. You know, it's like you know, you
right,
don't go there to fix the alcoholic. You go there to find yourself.
right. Well, I think a lot of people go there at first to think that they're going to fix the alcoholic, but
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
That they find out that there's so much more.
Another addiction that I think codependency in some ways can be sort of a socially acceptable addiction, as well as workaholism, or busyness. So, would you mind sharing a little bit about, do you help people that have work addictions or busyness addictions or anything?
I really haven't come across that per se, but I probably could help them because it's the same idea that what is it
Right,
that they're running from? What is it that they're numbing out from? What are they hiding from? Why are they using
right,
work to fill, you know, what is that empty void? It's the same
right.
idea. You know, I don't even know if there's probably programs like debtors. I don't know if
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
there
debtors.
is. There's WA. There's also there's a phone call meeting for friends and spouses of workaholics. Yeah.
Oh, that's
The thing
funny.
about that
Wow.
addiction is that it is glorified quite a bit in our culture. You know, in fact, Ariana Huffington just launched a new website called Thrive Global, which is all because she suffered from workaholism and almost died from it, and decided to, create a whole platform about helping people really, get clear about self-care and practices that can help them have the balance they need. Because,
Wonderful.
anything
That's wonderful.
to anything that can take us away from our feelings and stuff can become destructive.
Isn't it
Um,
just it's a constant reevaluating where your priorities are. Like I'm at an age
yeah.
now where I probably could slow down a little bit, and it's funny that we're having this discussion because I am a new grandma. She's a year old, and in the
Hmm.
last few days, the universe has been saying to me, Sherry, you need to spend more time with your granddaughter because all of a sudden now
Yeah.
she's standing. I miss that. Like she's standing in like a
Oh.
week, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so if you're awake, you're going to get those messages from the universe saying,
Right.
okay, I need to spend more time with my granddaughter. So what does that look like? What do I need to
Right.
slow down with? Because I probably do work more than I should be working because I love work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like what, you have to sort of figure out, I love it, but there's other things I love too. So I think it's an interesting conversation to dialogue about. I think you should have a show on it,
Hmm.
Mary. You should have a show on workaholism. I think it'd be a really interesting topic.
You know what? I'm going to make a note of that. Okay.
I think people, because I think that in our business as solo entrepreneurs, I think a lot of us
Hmm.
are dealing with a lot of workaholism because we are doing
Hmm.
everything, unless you
Yes.
have 20 assistants, and I don't think most of us do. Um,
Right.
Here we are, we're passionate, we have a calling, we've written a book, let's say, or we have a radio show
Right.
or whatever, we're doing a summit or a magazine, and we're wanting to put out all this positivity, but who do you think does all of that? Us. We do it.
Right.
So,
Right.
the question is, I think solo entrepreneurs are the ones that really are suffering the most. If you work at a job, yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, although that's not true. I mean, if you have a corporate job, there's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
too. I mean, there is pressure. I think that I shouldn't say that because there is pressure everywhere. Like you said, it's glorified.
Yeah. So I want to talk about relapse, and another thing in recovery is, and you mentioned this in your book, and I was actually surprised to see you just state this, but I'm glad that you did, about the whole issue about declaring yourself an alcoholic or an addict, and how you mentioned that you believe. Why don't you just share what you believe about that?
Well, I think I said in the book that you might want to say you're a recovering alcoholic, or if
Hmm.
you're saying
Hmm.
you're just an alcoholic, you're kind of putting out that negative energy. That like I don't really
Right.
appreciate the signs at meetings. Sometimes they'll say stinking thinking. There must.
Yes.
I think that's. complete self-degradation and
Totally.
self-deprecation.
Me too.
You know, I understand the point. Like, you don't want to forget who you are. And I think the
Right.
sticking thing is a way to normalize, because alcoholics are different. Alcoholics think differently. There is a different brain wiring. I get that. But there has to be a more positive way to put that out there. And I don't think stinking
Absolutely.
things, I mean, but again, I don't want to diss anybody out there that really wants to embrace I am an alcoholic, because that could mean a lot of things for them. Maybe it's just
Yeah,
a word,
absolutely.
but maybe what
It,
they really mean is I embrace God, or I never want
right.
to forget my journey, or so I'm not
Right.
judging, but I
Right.
don't think it actually, it's more the thinking around the alcoholic. Like, oh God, I'm
Right.
an alcoholic, so I should be able to get away with this,
Yeah.
this, and this.
Right.
I don't like that.
Right.
I don't like that,
I,
because I
I
think we all are works in progress.
I agree.
You know, we
I agree.
we all
Um,
have things that we can do to better ourselves. And so if you're just going to use the excuse, well, I'm an alcoholic, so therefore I'm irresponsible, or I'm a bad
I
boy,
can't help
or
it kind of thing, which is not
I
true. I
can't help
mean,
it. Exactly, Mary. Exactly.
well,
I
it's, I
can't
mean,
help
the
it.
thing about alcoholism for people that have the actual physical, reaction kind of thing, once you start drinking, you can't stop. I mean, until you're like out of your
Right.
mind.
Right.
But you do have a choice whether you're going to pick up or not, and that's based on all the different ways you maintain your recovery. Um,
Well, I would
but
even
let's
go further.
say, yeah,
I would go even further to say that the disease doesn't even start until you pick up the drink. In other words, you
yeah,
might have the gene, but you're not in your disease until you begin.
yes,
Yeah, and there's a solution for your disease, and that is a recovery program.
right.
So you don't
So
have to get to that point, you know.
right. Well, and I think the shame about alcohol or drug issues or any kind of weakness in our culture, like food, because I've struggled with alcohol, drugs, and food, and I had so much shame about it, and I worked through a lot of it. I think almost all of it, but our culture, it feels like our culture has sort of a perfectionistic vibe about you should be able to be strong and have willpower and therefore you shouldn't have problems with drugs, alcohol, or food, or watching TV or internet or whatever it might be, versus having compassion for ourselves and recognizing that everybody has weaknesses. I mean, mine might be around alcohol, yours might be around gambling or
I
internet,
don't even
but
I don't even call them weaknesses. They're just wounds. They're just
yeah,
wounds. I mean, there's yes, they may have a genetic predisposition, and I don't
right,
doubt that's mostly the
right,
case. But also, trauma is a huge component. And so,
yes,
you didn't ask to be neglected or abandoned or abused, or to go through a
right,
divorce or whatever, a loss, a death. I mean, those things wounded you, and so due to those wounds, there's an emptiness. A great
yes.
author on this subject is Gabe Gabar Mate. He's another
Yes,
great person to have
yes, I've
from
read some of his
Canada.
stuff. Yeah,
He's amazing. He talks about this emptiness, this trauma that underlies most addiction. It's that attachment issue, that
hmm,
inability to attach. I usually talk about this subject when I talk about love addiction. I was a
right.
preemie. I was in an incubator for 3 months. I think I wrote
That's
about that in
right.
my book. And
Yes,
so
you
there
did.
was no early attachment, none, zero. And then
Yes,
when I came home, my mother was scared to death. I turned blue when she
right.
would go to feed me. So there was just
Yeah,
this. There was no bonding, no
right,
healthy bonding. It's nobody's fault. It just is. But it
right.
definitely played havoc, and that I always felt very alone and very scared and very abandoned. And it is why I made the choices out of that wound. And so what we do is we've got to like unearth that wound. We have to like kind of put it out there and use your
And heal
wound
it. Yeah,
to
yeah.
heal and to move forward. But you may always have the wound, but
hmm
use it in a way that is, beneficial. Like make friends with your wound. Have compassion for your
Well,
wound. I'm
yeah,
not
like what you're doing is you're helping other people with similar wounds too.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
and
There's
I got to tell you. Go ahead.
no. I was just
Um,
going to say this next book that I'm writing. It's called The Marriage and Relationship Junkie. Is all about my wounds. It may have that
oh, I can't
title,
wait.
marriage. but it's all about my wounds and the decisions and the behaviors and the choices. And once I realized it was because of my wounding, there was no more shame.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of.
Well, and this is what I just had sort of a little aha as you were sharing. It's not weaknesses, it's our wounds. And culturally it feels like
Hey, by the way, that would be a great book title.
what?
It's not our
What?
weaknesses, it's our wounds. It's not our
That's good.
weaknesses, it's our wounds. So anybody out
Yes.
there, when you want to write your next book.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but culturally, it feels like from a cultural standpoint, there's pressure to be strong and not feel like you have the propensity to overdo it with alcohol, food, or whatever. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I lost you.
Yeah.
I lost you
I
again.
think.
What did you say?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, the propensity to what?
Well, that our culture has a propensity to judge people that have challenges in these areas, like
Yes,
there's
yes.
something weak about us. And so when
Oh,
we
yeah. I mean,
recognize that's just ignorance. The reality is that we all have areas that we have challenges in, and that they're because
Oh,
of our wounds.
I totally get that. I've had multiple marriages, and you can be sure that my relative, not my immediate family, although hard to say, but my outside family, when I go
Hmm.
to an event, I know they're judging me. I know they are. Oh,
Hmm.
she's been married a
Hmm.
bunch of times. What's wrong with her? Well, you know
Hmm.
what? They didn't walk in my shoes. They have no
Right,
idea where I.
exactly.
It doesn't
Exactly.
mean that I'm a loser. It just means that I had wounds, and that's how I dealt with them.
Exactly. Well, that is so cool. I love
Yeah, I think
how
we
you
have I think I
reframe with
channeled
such
something.
compassion. Yeah.
Well, I just think I think we need more compassion in this world. I think we do,
Yeah,
especially for
absolutely.
ourselves.
So, since we're just about at the top of the hour here, we need to, wrap up. How would people be able to get a hold of you?
Just go to my website, sherrygaba.com, SherryGaba.com, and I have all
Okay.
kinds of free ebooks. I have a love addiction ebook. I have a
Okay.
ebook on codependency. I have an ebook on eliminate limiting beliefs, and then I have an ebook on how whether or not you want to become a celebrity expert, kind of a quiz and a little ebook on that subject. So yeah, just check out my website. I
Awesome.
have lots of blogs and videos, and love to hear from you. I'm very engageable. You can email me, and I'll write you back.
Yes. And when is your next book coming out?
In the fall, yeah,
Okay.
should be so.
Well, we'll have to have
Yeah.
you on for that book. I'd love to have you back. That'd be
Oh,
great.
my pleasure, Mary. Just keep doing this wonderful work you're doing. This is a great show, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye, Sherry.
Bye.
All right. Wow, that was awesome. It's so neat to
Yeah, I hope you
see.
were happy with it.
Actually, I'm still on live here.
Oh, hi
Um,
everybody. I hope you were happy, everybody.
actually, Sherry, there you are again. Just so you know, I forgot to tell you when we first started that after we're done with your interview, I'm just going to go and do a couple of announcements.
Oh, okay. All
So
right, I'm leaving.
yeah.
All right. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye, Mary.
All right. So, Sherry Gaba, definitely go to her website and download some of those free products, some great stuff. You know, the thing is that recovery is possible. I'm a perfect example of it. I mean, I had a very serious drinking issue and got into recovery, and my whole life transformed. And that was when really things really started taking off in my life. And so, let's see. A couple of announcements, and then we're going to sign off for the night. I have my coaching tip. I've got our guest for next week. Next week, we have R.V. Robinson, who is a master speakers trainer. So if you're a person that can use new clients or would like to inspire people through public speaking, RV Robinson is a great trainer, and she's going to be here next week, Wednesday night, and she's going to enlighten us on how to be a persuasive speaker and how to generate new clients through that. So yay, I'm excited about that. And then the coaching tip. So I thought a good coaching tip for today would be something around looking at some behaviors that you might, or that you're engaging in, that you know are not healthy, and take a look at a couple of behaviors and pick one that you would like to either eliminate, reduce, or replace. And basically pick the one that you feel like you're willing to make a commitment on, and take a look at some resources that you could use. If you've got a drug or an alcohol issue, there's all kinds of 12-step or other types of meetings you can go to. If this is a food issue, there's all kinds of support out there. But the first step is just getting clear that you're doing something that's creating a negative outcome or life-damaging consequences. And then doing the research that you need to get the support you need. And one of the key things that can really help you is to have an accountability partner, whether that's a coach, a therapist, a friend, or a 12-step group. That has made a huge difference for me, just knowing that I'm going to be accountable for my actions. And let me know how it goes, because I'm really wanting to support people in their recovery or your transformation. And if you would like to share some really good results from just different commitments you've made as a result of coming to the show or watching the show, that would be great. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I am a life coach, and I love working with women that want to share their voice with the world. And I do that through my life coaching practice, where I help you get clear about who you are, what your message is, who you want to reach, and then how to reach them on a global level. So I can actually produce your live stream show for you as well, or teach you how to live stream on your own. Also, I have a 20-year background in marketing and business building, and so if you're a woman that has a message that you are just really wanting to get out there to the world, I would love to support you in getting your gift and your message out there. So go to my website, which is right above me, maryjuliani.net/coaching, and take a look at some of my programs there. Let's see, I think that's about it. Is there any other things I wanted to say? Well, there always is. Make sure you sign up for my email list if you would like to get notifications of the guests that are coming up next week. I always like to say at the very end of the show, think of one thing that you can do tomorrow that you're willing to make a commitment to, where you can be more true to yourself, and you'll be amazed at what happens when you take that step. So have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.